Yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV, live with some more scintillating Q&A, where I'm going to be tackling your most pressing catamaran sailing questions. In today's episode, we are going to be having navigating tight areas. Yes, how can we do that? We are going to be looking at safety tethering. Yes, we are going to be looking at how to get even more speed out of your boat when sending it. Yes, just thought I'd let you know what we're going to be having. And we are going to have making rigging easier, because let's face it, nobody actually well, some people enjoy rigging, but if rigging is harder than it should be, then it can suck the fun out of the day. All right, so I'm just going to go on to the first question, and then I will check in with everybody who is checking in. Oh yes. All right, so the first question is coming in from Patrick. Patrick has got a MiniCat 520 Explorer. That's a 5.20 m long inflatable catamaran from MiniCat. It's quite a new design. I think it only came out last year. Really great for exploring places that you couldn't get to in a conventional fiberglass catamaran. Now, Patrick says to navigate a narrow downwind channel. Oh, as luck would have it, I have a narrow downwind channel right here. And it's very shallow as well. Okay, so this is pretty tricky. What would you do? Rudder up, main loose, sit to windward, hold the boom to control the power, and use a paddle as a sweep oar to steer. So that would be like what we're talking about there is, if you've got a paddle and you hold it off the back of the boat, you could have your rudder all the way up and you just pushing the paddle from one side to the other to steer the boat. Yes, I think to start with, let's talk about the actual paddle. If you are definitely not wanting to put any rudder in the water and you're carrying a paddle, then yes, this is a great way of steering the boat, albeit you're not going to be able to have any sort of real, let's say, accuracy or response time with steering, and it will take a little bit of experimentation. If we take a boat here, let's get rid of him. I got a bit excited with preparations today because I've been away. So here's our boat, and then this is our paddle that we're putting, sorry, up there, better, that we're putting into the water. So with the blade of the paddle, let's find a paddle blade. Yes, like that. Is everybody following me here? I hope so. So we're putting the blade of the paddle in the water like this. Then the thing to experiment with to find out how to make the steering more effective, I would say, would be how far back you put the paddle. Now, the further back you put it, the less leverage you're going to have. I think it's going to work much faster. I think I'm going to make a video on this when I'm back on the water, because this is a really interesting thing to try, I believe. So having the paddle further back, it will steer the boat more aggressively, but you won't have the leverage on the paddle unless you've got a really long, like, I think a good paddle to use for any type of sailing, if you've got the space on your boat, is a paddle from a stand-up paddle board, because with one of those, you've got the option to stand up and paddle if you are paddling, which if you're paddling for a long time, that's going to be much more comfortable than sitting on the boat and awkwardly paddling down the side. And also, if you are using the paddle as an oar like this to steer with as a rudder, then you are going to have more options. If you put the paddle in the water at a steeper angle like this, it's going to be much there's going to be much less load, but it's not going to turn the boat quite as aggressively. So some experimenting to do there to find out what works best with the steering. Then, okay, so sailing the boat, what else does Patrick say? Rudder up, check. Main loose, yes. Definitely mainsail loose. Now, one thing that is really going to influence your decision on how to tackle this sort of situation. If you hadn't understood I think the diagram's very good actually, but this is water and this is land either side. So we've got a narrow channel. If it's windy, then navigating this channel like this is going to be much more precarious. So what could we do if we wanted to do it as safely as possible? For those of you who've been before, I think you are going to know where I am going with this. But what we would do is, before we get into the channel, if we know it's coming up, we'll turn the boat into the wind, we'll drop the mainsail, and on the MiniCat inflatable boats, for the size of the rig, they have got a relatively big jib, which is on a furler, and deploying the big jib down here, that's going to make it much easier to steer, and it's going to make it much safer as well. Because the thing is, if you've got the mainsail up, you're going downwind or any point of sail, let's just have a mainsail on here, any point of sail, and you get a gust of wind, even if your mainsail is really far out, like perhaps you could completely detach the main sheet so the boom can go all the way out to the shroud. But still, if you get a gust, you are going to get some weather helm, which means the boat is going to want to turn up into the wind like this. Yeah. So if it's a strong gusty wind, you might be coming down through, let's call it the channel of joy, down here, and you get a gust, and the boat is just going to really want to head up towards the wind. So dropping the mainsail may be the safest option. If the wind is, let's say, in excess of 12 knots, then I would definitely consider dropping the main to go through here. Yeah. All right. The other option, of course, and we've been here before, if the channel is wide enough, is before you get into the channel, turn the boat head to wind, rudders up, sit on the bows, which is going to raise the back of the boat like this. Have we got a person? All right, our person is going to be that. It's going to raise the back of the boat, which is going to put the bows of the boat into the water, so the bows will act like rudders, and it will keep the boat going really straight. So if you've got enough width and you want another option, you could navigate the channel backwards. Very cool. I think backward sailing is up there with one of the top 5 things to really nail on the catamaran. Very good. So what else? What angle should the boat be relative to the wind? Yeah, so back to, if you were sailing normally, I would say, if you're doing this, if the wind is really light, then you've got more wiggle room because there's not going to be quite as much weather helm trying to take the boat up into the wind. But as the wind gets stronger, there's definitely going to be more of a tendency of the boat to want to head up. So the best point of sail is going to be, although it's a little bit more precarious with the chance of the accidental jibe, is to sail the boat really deep downwind, because that is going to have the minimum amount of weather helm. And if you're doing that, making sure that the boom is out as far as it will go. And just if you've got two people on the boat, have someone with a hand on the boom just to make sure that the boat isn't going to suddenly jibe when you're not expecting it, so they can stop the boom from being able to jibe, which means it's going to be safer. So there we go. I hope that helps Patrick and everybody else who has a narrow channel to navigate. Oh, yes. All right. So I'm just going to check in with everybody who's checking in live. And starting off, I'd like to say welcome to Joyrider Academy member, Suha Hakim. Very good choice. So to become a Joyrider Academy member, it's the higher tier of Joyrider channel membership on YouTube. And by becoming an Academy member, it means you get access to the full Joyrider TV classroom series. You can join for just 1 month if you want to just try it out. And for 1 month, it's €10 to join. And there are, in the Joyrider classroom series, there are 126 videos. That's a lot. So you're not going to get, you could get through that lot in a month, but I think it's unlikely. So I'm going to sneeze. Or not. I probably will when I'm not expecting it. Got a bit of a cold. Just been in England. What can you pick up in England for free? Yes, you can pick up a cold. Easy. All right. Lovely time, though. By the way, if you do happen to be in the UK and you are looking to get into cat sailing, and this probably goes, I haven't done any research, but I would guess that this goes for most of Europe. If you want to get into cat sailing and you don't know which boat to start with, there seems to be a lot of Dart 18s and 15s for sale secondhand, and the prices are, I would say, amazing. The amount of boat that will give you a good time for the money, less than €2,000, and you'll be out there flying. I started sailing on a Dart 18, and yeah, I can safely recommend to you, yes, it is a great boat. All right. Also, welcome to the Joyrider TV Academy. Oh god, this is a tricky name to read, but Stefadimonva, or however that is pronounced. But welcome to the Academy. I hope you enjoy the classroom series. Yes. All right. I'd just like to say very quickly before it's too late, hello to Da Vinci FPV in Brisbane, Australia. Must be about 4 o'clock in the morning for you right now, but thanks for tuning in. Great to have you on board. Also in the live chat, we've got Boris. Thanks, Boris. Boris has chipped in with a super chat. The super chat is a really great way of letting me know that you appreciate the information. It's just located next to the chat window. And Boris is there. He said, if you have a chance in the Q&A, could you talk about the pros and cons of masts, comp tip versus aluminium? I think we can do that. All right. Yeah. So just finishing on the super chat topic, the super chat is what keeps the Q&A on Joyrider TV ad-free. There we go. Thanks very much, Boris. And while I'm getting set up, thanks very much to Hussein in Egypt. Hello from a stormy Sokhna. Yes, that is where the previous videos on Joyrider TV have come from, because I had the pleasure of being in Sokhna, I think it was about a month ago now, maybe a bit more. Yeah, very nice sailing there with Hussein and Tarek. Hope you've been getting some action. And I think before we dive in, I've just got more and more in the live chat, and that's Justin in Texas. What's up, Joe? Jean and I are out at the Hill Country Regatta this morning at Buchanan Dam, saying hello from Texas. Have a great regatta, Justin. I hope that it is going well and that it is well attended. Yeah, another sideline topic, but Justin has been contributing to Joyrider Worldwide. Yes, if Joyrider TV isn't enough catamaran sailing for you, check out my latest YouTube channel called Joyrider Worldwide, where it's a fairly unique thing in that anybody can upload a video to the channel. And what we're doing is we're creating, I'm hoping, the biggest library of catamaran sailing videos on the internet. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Everybody is invited to upload. Of course, the more entertaining your video is, the more people are going to watch it. Why are we doing it in one YouTube channel? It's because if you have got like one or two videos which you think these are really good, is that worthy of starting a channel unless you're going to follow it through and keep producing more content? If you really want your videos to be seen, having a bigger channel with more views, more subscribers is meaning that videos are more likely to get seen by more people. And also for the viewer, it means you can just hit play on Joyrider Worldwide and you could be watching catamaran sailing from anywhere in the world all day. There we go. If you want to know more about that, just head over to totaljoyrider.com. First thing you'll see on there is how to become an uploader to Joyrider Worldwide. All right. So Boris's question. Yeah, so there's two types of masts, generally speaking, on Hobies. The one that I'm most familiar with is just a straight aluminium section like this, not necessarily blue. And the other type is what is called a comp tip. Have I got a comp tip? Yeah, it's slightly a little bit too thick, but a comp tip is like this, where the top, I think it would be like the top fifth of the mast, or about 1.5 meters, is made of a fiberglass composite. And the reason that these comp tip masts exist is because in the USA there was some people over the years who made contact with their aluminium mast with an overhead power cable. Yes, top tip, always look up, whether you're hoisting the sail or definitely if you're wheeling your boat. Yeah, so made contact with an overhead power cable and bad things happened because of the electricity getting sent down the mast. So the composite top to the mast means that if you do make contact, it's not going to be quite as severe. So it is law in the USA on I think not on all boats, so don't know how this law works, but on Hobies it was law that they had to use a comp tip mast. Now, what is the benefit other than less risk of death with a comp tip mast? This top section of mast is going to bend more easily. What does this mean? It means that when you pull the downhaul on, you're going to be able to bend the mast more, which means you're going to be able to get a flatter sail. What does this mean? It means that when the wind is stronger, you're going to be able to get your boat more efficient, sailing faster upwind with a comp tip mast. So heavy wind, upwind, comp tip mast, better because you can get it flatter. Now, what is the downside of the comp tip mast? Much more fragile. The track where the sail fits in on a comp tip mast, these are prone, especially on older boats, to cracking, and this can lead to actually needing to replace that section of the mast. So much less durable. Also, the comp tip section does need, I would just varnish it every few years to stop it from flaking. And that composite, if you leave it up all the time or in the sun or in the weather all the time, you're going to start getting like fiberglass splinters coming off that, and that's not very nice to handle. I haven't seen the numbers, but I would guess the comp tip mast is also slightly lighter in weight. What else? The aluminium mast. What's better about that? It's just a big lump of aluminium, and that is just going to do the job, which is to support your sails. And yeah, very straightforward, much less likely to have some sort of failure, because also there's not a join where the track is on the mast there. It's just a straight track all the way to the top. So there we go. There are boat speed benefits more than what I've spoken about there, but I can't remember exactly what they are. I did speak to Rich McVeigh from the US Hobie Cat Association a few years ago on the topic, but I have since forgotten the exact things which we spoke about. So there you go, Boris. I hope that helps. All right, on to the next preloaded question. All right. We've got Chris, who is in Florida. And he says, where can I find a used RS Aero? Yeah. The RS Aero, if you didn't know, it's a monohull made by RS, as the name might imply. And the RS Aero is basically like RS's answer to the Laser or the Ilka or to any sort of single-handed hiking monohull. It's so lightweight. An RS Aero only weighs 30 kilograms, I believe. Very lightweight, really nice boat to sail. If you ever get the opportunity to sail one, if you come to Wildwind sailing holidays in Greece, you'll be able to sail one here, and everybody who tries the Aero absolutely loves it. Choice of 3 rigs, carbon mast, carbon boom. Yeah, really nice, well laid out, good fun to sail. Has anybody got one? They're selling in the sort of southeast of the USA. Thank you. If you have, put it in the comments. There we go. And I'll put you in touch with Chris. All right, next one. And this is in response to my video of sailing single-handed in Egypt recently. And this is a really good point. David said, why not a safety line or harness in case you fall off? Yeah. Looking at the video, I would have to agree, because let's just do a quick reconstruction of the situation. Here was the beach. Wind blowing kind of think it was kind of like in this direction. And the worry is if you're out sailing and you've got no support at all. Maybe, you know, there was Hussein and Tarek were on land watching, and if something had happened, they could have got on the phone, probably phoned someone, or there are some guys with a safety boat, but it's not instant, the actual safety boat going out. So if I was sailing out here and I fell off the boat, let's say I was out on the trapeze and the trapeze line broke and I didn't manage to hold on to the main sheet. So first thing, if you are not tethered to your boat, if you're single-handed and you find that for some reason you've ended up in the water, keep hold of your main sheet if you can. Not even if you can, keep hold of your main sheet, because if you've seen a few years ago, I did extensive testing on what happens if you fall off the boat. And a lot of the time, if you're sailing the boat in most wind strengths and you don't have a hold of the boat and you fall in, the boat is going to keep sailing. In a really strong wind, it might just keep sailing for 10 boat lengths. But in light wind, this is where it's even more dangerous, because if you fall off the boat in light wind, not holding on, and the boat can just keep going, if your main sheet isn't in tight, the boat is just going to keep going indefinitely. Because on a catamaran, the rudders are fairly likely to stay going straight and the boat's just going to go. So, number one, doesn't matter how relaxed you are on the boat, you should always be holding the main sheet. Always. When is it appropriate not to be holding the main sheet? I would say the only time when it's appropriate not to hold the main sheet is when you've got your boat totally stopped in the hove to or half hove to position. And the reason for going hove to might be that you need to repair something, or that you're having a break to have something to eat or drink. That would be okay to let go of the main sheet. But other than that, you should always be holding on to the main sheet, because not only will the main sheet save you from most types of capsize, but it is the tether that you should always have with you. Now, of course, if you did fall off the boat, it might be because you went to let some main sheet out, you let out too much, and you went swinging off the back of the boat. Then your hand is open when that happened, and you're going to be off the back of the boat, no main sheet, but you're still going to be hooked onto the trapeze. All right, still attached. This is okay. But being separated from the boat, even if you have got safety cover, is not a good look, because very quickly, even with safety cover, you could be 10 boat lengths away from the boat. So you could be, let's say you could be there, the boat's here, and then maybe the boat capsizes at that point and then starts getting blown off sideways. You're very difficult to see in the water. So yes, being tethered is extremely important. And also a very good idea and extremely important is to have a whistle in the pocket on your buoyancy aid, or PFD, because a whistle is a very good way of attracting attention, much louder than shouting and much more sustainable. All right, but what if we wanted to tether more effectively? Like if you were going to sail a passage to like another island or a beach or something, and you're on your own on the boat, no safety boats, you're going into open sea, then in the testing, this is bigger than necessary, but this is called a snap shackle. And what I did with the snap shackle is I attached it to the strap on my trapeze harness, and then I could hook the loop of the main sheet going to the traveler through the snap shackle, and there you are, tethered. That means even if you fall in with no hands, you're going to be attached to the boat. Now, you could say, why don't you just have a separate line to tether to? If you introduce more lines onto the boat, it's more likely that you're going to get tangled up and in a mess. So better not to introduce more lines, in my opinion. Instead, just hook into the loop of the main sheet traveler and you are good. I even in the testing did a pitch pole deliberately whilst hooked in to see where I'd end up, and it was fine. It was probably one of the most frightening things I've ever made myself do on a boat deliberately, but all in the name of research and development. And there we go. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So next preloaded question. This one comes from Leo in the Netherlands, I believe. All right. We're talking about going faster. Good topic. Conditions, wind force 4 or more. So we're talking 16 knots or higher. Sailing half wind, reaching across the wind. So let's have the wind like this. This is what we're doing. All right. Leo says, what is better? Cunningham and no traveller, or full sail with some traveller? Yeah, so I'd say we're probably talking more like 14 knots here. So what are we talking about? The downhaul, as we know, if you've either seen the videos of the classroom series or seen many Q&A videos on Joyrider TV, the downhaul, let's just talk very quickly story of the downhaul. All right, so if we've got this is looking down at the mainsail. So there's the mast. Can we see that? Yes. If we've got no downhaul on, the sail has no shape. So when we're ready to start sailing, and not before, we then pull the downhaul to the minimum. And when we put on the minimum amount of downhaul, that puts the maximum amount of curve in the mainsail. More curve equals more power. So in light wind, we want to have as much power as possible. So we just pull enough downhaul on to take the creases out of the mainsail. Then as we pull more downhaul on beyond the minimum, then we get less curve, which makes the sail less powerful. So that is the whole story of the downhaul. So as it gets more windy, if we feel like we've got too much power for us to deal with, even if we're not wanting to trapeze at all, and we just want to control the boat, more downhaul is going to flatten the sail, making it less powerful. So Leo's question is, another way that we can deal with the power is as we get too much power, this is our traveler car, we can let the traveler car out. So letting the traveler car out halfway is going to help us get rid of a lot of power. Now, what is the most efficient for sailing faster on a reach? Okay, here we go. I haven't really talked about this before, this relationship, But what I would say is if we're going for speed, before we go for speed, what about we just try to sail to get there without any drama? Yes, definitely. If you're feeling like you've got enough juice to lift the hull, keep pulling downhaul on until you're able to keep the hull just where you want it using a minimum amount of main sheet. So that is stage one. Really crank it on. How much is the right amount of downhaul when you've got the hull lifting? I'd say pull the downhaul on as hard as you can and then a little bit more. And then you'll know if you've got too much downhaul on because you'll have gone from being able to lift the hull slightly to not being able to lift the hull at all. So if you're not able to lift the hull and it feels windy, it might be that you've pulled too much downhaul on. Okay. I think it was module 2 of the classroom series was on power control. Yes, well worth a look. So the other way we can control the power, so if we're just trying to get there, is once we've got the downhaul on full, if we still feel that we need to be letting the main sheet out all of the time to keep the boat sailing nicely, then it's more efficient, rather than letting the main sheet out all the time, to change gear. Let's call it changing gear, which we'll do by letting out the traveller and then playing the main sheet from that position. That is going to make a massive difference to the amount of power that you're working with. If you really want to depower the boat, you could let the traveller out all of the way, and that means you can sail in a really strong wind and still feel in control. But doesn't matter where you put the traveller, your focus should still be on playing the main sheet. Every time you pull the main sheet in, take the rope out of the cleat if it's windy, so that then it's easy to let the main sheet go out. And then when you've let the main sheet out, if you're no longer flying the hull, pull the main sheet back in. Why? Because if you let the main sheet out a lot, it means that you're no longer in control of your mainsail, and the mainsail is just being manipulated by the pressure from the wind in it. There we go. All right, so if we're going for speed, right, so we've gone for getting there, but what if we want to add a bit of finesse to this? So what, let's narrow the question down to what is better: traveller in the middle, main sheet on full, this is for speed, or traveller eased and downhaul on minimum. If we really are going for speed, I would go for the latter. Less downhaul, less traveller, because what that's going to do is put more curve in the sail, which on a half wind reaching course is going to give us more power. And if we are getting too much power with all that curve, we can always ease the traveller further. But what it does mean is if we're then going to change course onto an upwind course, we are going to need to pull the downhaul on again. So if you're on a boat where the downhaul isn't able to be adjusted from out on the trapeze, it might be more efficient, if you are sailing a course, to keep the traveller, keep the downhaul cranked on in the upwind setting, so that you don't have to adjust it twice. Because adjusting the downhaul on a boat like a Hobie 16 Dart 18 isn't straightforward like it is on a Formula 18, where you can just crank it on as you need. So on a Formula 18 or Tornado, ease the traveller out if you're sailing on a half wind course, and then set the traveller so that you've got the amount of power that you want. how do we know when the traveler's in the right position? It's so that in the biggest lull, your main sheet is in as tight as possible. There we go. All right. Thanks very much for the question, Leo. That's a good one. Okay. In the live chat, we have got Tucker's bow tie. Cheers. Feeling ever so slightly croaky today. Hello from sunny Berlin. The season is finally getting underway here. Great stuff. Good to hear. It is definitely getting underway here in Vasiliki Lefkas, Greece, with Wildwind Sailing Holidays opening on the 25th of April. Yeah, not long to go. Yeah, and it's sunny. The wind's a little bit late at the moment, and hopefully in the next few days I'll shift this cold, get out on the water. I know having a cold isn't good reason to not get out on the water, but I want to shift it. Don't want to, and it's a long season ahead, plenty of opportunity. All right, but no opportunity if you're a bit poorly or a lot poorly. There we go. Okay, so next preloaded question comes from Bart, who says, facing problems due to repairs on the mainsail, and it encounters a lot of resistance when it going into the mast track, wetting the sail, which we've talked about before. Generally, if you want hoisting your mainsail to be much easier, getting the luff, the front edge of the sail, completely wet before you hoist the sail makes it so much easier. I would say use water rather than any lubricant that you can buy, because you can't put too much water on. However, with lubricant that you can buy, it's very easy to put too much on, and then before you know it, your trampoline has got lubricant on it, your ropes, your tiller extension, your wetsuit, everything. So no lubricant, yes, water. That's what I think. Others disagree, but I just think what I think, and that's what I think. So Bart is still having problems getting his mainsail up, even when it is wet. So what is probably going on, having experienced this sort of issue, is this is the front of the sail. Doesn't look like the front, I know, but what if it went like that? There we go, a bit more. We've got our batten pockets, and the place where the mainsail, through wear and tear rather than through an accidental damage kind of thing, is most likely to happen is the batten pockets. That is where the majority of the friction is when you're hoisting the mainsail. So what happens is, if this is our bolt rope in the sail, then we've got the cap, the plastic cap that the batten goes into. So there's our batten pocket. Then what we get over time is ripping here, which does need to be repaired. And if you are getting it repaired, just ask the sail, if the sailmaker isn't so experienced in repairing catamaran sails, just say, we need to take the cap off first. If your cap is in with nuts and bolts, you could save yourself some money by doing this rather than making the sailmaker do that as well, because it's an easy job, doesn't take long, but there you are. So take the cap off, take the batten out, of course, and then just explain to them that when they're stitching the cloth on to repair that bit, how can we illustrate? I'm just going to illustrate this, they want to get the stitching there's the bolt rope. There's the cloth that is repairing the hole that's gone round the bolt rope, the sail's here, and they want to get the stitching, like straight line stitching, really as close to the bolt rope as possible, like that, because that is going to mean that it's not going to get so much harder to hoist when we're hoisting the sail. So that could be a bit of a fix there. If on Bart's sail, if Bart has a look and he goes, oh yeah, the stitching's a bit away from the bolt rope, maybe I could get some stitching put in closer to the bolt rope, which is going to make it easier to get that in. Now, what else can we do? The only thing that we can do is down to feeding when the sail is actually going into the mast track. And the thing to do is much easier, of course, with two people, and communication is key. Don't have the boat on its trolley. If the boat is on its trolley, here's the boat on the trolley like this, what's happening there is there's the bottom part of the mast, is gravity is trying to pull the sail out of the mast track. So much better if you can have the boat flat so gravity isn't pulling the sail out of the mast track. And then one person on the boat, you might have to stand on the trampoline, take a hand either side of the sail, so round the front of the mast, grab hold of the batten pocket, pull it into the mast, push it up physically, and then the person with the halyard just takes up the slack. So what we're doing is effectively pushing the sail up the mast and then taking up the slack on the halyard. That is the best way of doing it. Communication is key. So you push the sail up the track and then you say, okay, pull. They pull it. You say, wait, push up the next bit. And you can soon get very efficient hoisting your sail like that. And it isn't as much of a pain as it sounds at first. If you're doing it on your own, a bit more tricky because you have to push it up. But then if it's tight, it shouldn't slip back down. So push it up, then pull a bit of halyard and repeat. There we go. I hope that helps. Yeah, definitely makes for a better time if it's easier to get your mainsail up. Okay, so Boris in the live chat, thanks for your input about masts. I have one of each, but using the aluminium one for now. Have to get the comp tip ready. I am missing a sheave for it. Yeah, you're certainly going to need one of those. If you're missing any parts for your boat in the USA, check out Murray's. Murray's is this has, I believe, the largest range of catamaran parts in the USA. There we go. Okay, so I think on that note, no further questions. So thank you very much for tuning in. And that will be all at this time. Have a great weekend. If you're going out sailing, get on the speed stick, keep it safe. And I'll see you next week on Friday for some more Q&A. But I'm sure I'll be back soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.